Hi, sisters and brothers. I'm glad you're here after the elections. I'm going to talk about the disaster and the disasters that happened before the Isaac and Sandy as well. It is no secret that every 4 years the two corporate parties spend millions of dollars on elections. It is also clear that no matter which candidate wins every election, poor and working people will continue to suffer all along. It is true that there is extremely high unemployment and increasing poverty that have characterized the time that has passed since the 2000 election. What is also true is that when a catastrophe or natural disaster occurs, the working class suffers the most, but the most affected are supported by their neighbors and fellow workers. Let's remember that on December 26, 2004, a massive earthquake created a furious tsunami in South Asia, which collided with the shore, causing mass death and devastation. The tsunami killed 165,000 people. Hundreds of thousands more went missing or were wounded. Approximately 5 million became homeless and hungry. There was a water shortage, which caused people to drink contaminated water and further threatened lives. The awful tsunami struck 11 countries, but affected oppressed countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Myanmar, India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, the Maldives, and Somalia the most. Activists and workers around the world reacted by giving support and aid to the victims. The U.S. government also sent aid, but the Bush administration first offered $50 million, which was quickly boosted to $350 million after international outcry. Furthermore, $350 million is still a drop in the bucket for the United States. With billions of dollars needed after the tsunami, the richest government on the planet couldn't spare a small fraction of what it spends on the military. Humans could not have stopped the earthquake from happening, but if the Indian Ocean had a warning system like the Pacific region did, then 10,000 of lives could have been saved. A warning system could have allowed people to evacuate before so many lives were lost. But this is not what capitalists want to invest their money in. Globalization leaves workers in these countries unprotected from the most dangerous of earthquakes, tsunamis, and tropical storms. Furthermore, through plunder of resources and labor, those in Asian and African countries are exploited when nature is at ease. Capitalism has no borders. It not only harms those who live outside of the United States, but also its domestic proletariat. Hurricane Katrina showed us that the ruling class can easily turn its back on American working class people who fall victim to a catastrophe. In 2005, racism and negligence were the biggest response to Hurricane Katrina. A city like New Orleans, where the percentage of African Americans lies around 70%, were ignored by the capitalist government. No evacuation plans or assistance was provided. When the hurricane happened, it broke the defective levees in 53 places, flooding 80% of the city. For this reason, 1,400 people died, and tens of thousands of people were trapped inside or on top of their flooded homes for days before the government came to offer some assistance. This consisted of food, water, some medical aid, and temporary shelters where many died. After the disaster subsided, the government basically gave the minimum assistance for workers to restore the city and provided jobs. In late August 2012, 7 years later after Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Isaac hit the northern Gulf Coast of the United States. It was a slow-moving tropical cyclone which strengthened into a tropical storm, causing severe damage along the northern Gulf Coast of the United States. Stronger levees were built after Katrina, which protected the vast majority of the city. But despite the improvement, Isaac caused flooding, and thousands of people died and did not receive any help in affected areas. The flooding struck around 4 days, and 100,000 people went without power for up to a week. It shows that under capitalism, trillions are spent for imperialist wars before the safety and health of poor and working class is even considered. Recently, the negligence of our government can be seen from the response paid to the victims of Hurricane Sandy, which hit the most oppressed and poor areas of New York City, including the Far Rockaway neighborhood of Queens. The government failed to sufficiently provide for the people living there who were devastated after the storm ended. Instead, relief centers around the region made immediate calls for help. They called for important necessities like blankets, socks, water, and diapers. As the days without proper government assistance continued, PSL presidential candidate Peter Lindsay and vice presidential candidate Jari Osorio teamed up with other organizers and activists. Other PSL volunteers went out to help by providing basic necessities like bottled water. When the PSL team first arrived at Far Rockaway, they offered water to some people standing outside a convenience store. They hesitated on taking the water at first because they thought comrades were charging for the bottles, but soon realized that the water was in fact free. Can you imagine? These people were in disbelief that the ordinary people actually wanted to help them. When a people's own government abandons them, it's pretty easy for them to start losing all hope. After the first day of assistance, the team reported that a man told them that they heard the FEMA and Red Cross that were supposed to arrive long ago, but there had been no sign of them. Peter said, what is needed is enormous government-funded relief and reconstruction program which will hire 100,000 unemployed workers right away. On November 4, 2012, a team reported that there were still 730,000 people in New York City, 1 million in New Jersey, and 200,000 along the Atlantic coast who were still without power. People were still suffering due to the lack of water, electricity, and food. As it got colder, people were in danger of freezing without any heat. In some neighborhoods, there was still no way of communicating with anyone. Far Rockaway was among the hardest hit by Hurricane Sandy, but has thus far been helped, at least, by our government. Far Rockaway was not only ignored by the system, but also oppressed. It is, of course, a working class neighborhood. On days when it was bright and sunny, the police confronted people there daily with insulting stop and frisks policy. A walk to the store subway can easily lead to harassment by the police. This is a reality for many New Yorkers, not just those who live in Queens. The people argue that the majority that were stopped, the most were Black and Latino. While those stopped, the fewest were white. Small armies of police patrol the lobbies and roam the hallways of many public housing buildings. The official police numbers report 7 stops for every 100 residents, but under some research, it shows that they do as many as 93 stops for every 100 residents. This oppression only increased after the hurricane. The Peter Lindsay and Jari Osorio campaign and their team reported that the police presence was heavy and grew continuously as the sun began to set. They saw dozens of cops roaming around and others protecting closed supermarkets with food inside, doing nothing but going bad. This food could have been used to feed the hungry. The stop and frisk policy increased exponentially. The team reported everyone gets stopped and gets interrogated, including children coming from school. People should not worry about being confronted by police when they step out of their homes, just to walk down the street, especially when one is stuck in the middle of a disaster area. Racially based policing does nothing but undermines the trust between residents and police, harming public safety. Not that there has ever been much trust between residents and police in the first place. The cops only serve the 1%. They serve corporations rather than people. All of this shows that capitalism cares about only one thing, and that is profit. It prioritizes the defense of private property over basic human need in disasters like these. As the two capitalist parties were fighting for votes, the Peter Lindsay and Jari Osorio campaign and other volunteers were out on the streets providing basic necessities for the people of Far Rockaway. Capitalism serves what is profitable. In natural disasters, the United people need is profitable. Both capitalist parties continue to show that their common interest is to accomplish the goals of multinational corporations on Wall Street, which doesn't include full and comprehensive support for working-class victims of natural disasters. The government's priority in times like these should be to provide resources, shelter, and assistance. If they claim that there's no money to do so, they should seize funds from the bailed-out banks, who receive $700 million in taxpayer-generated funds. They could expropriate the resources of private corporations in order to provide assistance in emergencies. There is some evidence that global warming may be leading to more continuously lasting and massive storms, hurricanes, and earthquakes. Although this is another problem altogether that could be addressed in an entirely different talk, these catastrophes will continue to happen, even if the global warming could miraculously be fixed. Mother Nature will never let up, and working people will again fall victim to the elements. We cannot depend on a capitalist government in time of crisis. The same government that escalates military invasions for profit cannot provide for our people. We need socialism, a system that will make the lives and well-being of people a top priority. Thank you.
Yeah.